What is up, everybody? We're doing our live stream today, and because of what's happening, we're doing this remotely. So hopefully everything goes off without a hitch. We're trying some new ideas. But today we're going to be talking to Greg Hickman, and excuse me, Greg Hickman. He's going to teach us how to double our capacity without working more. What a crazy, incredible promise he's talking about. In other words, how to become twice as productive in half the time, sort of. I was scraping his website, and the value prop to their customers or their potential audiences is this. They help agency owners grow and scale without working nights and weekends. That sounds incredible, especially with what's going on right now, through using productized services and predictable systems. And what he wants to do is help people to go from charging time for money to charging based on value, where the client does it for you, to going to doing it with you, where you used to be hired for labor, but now you're hired for solutions and knowledge. I love this, so I want to know more. Where you used to work one-to-one, and now you may be able to work one-to-many. And in the old way, you would scale mostly with an expensive team, but now using technology and doing less and running a lean team. That's how you scale. And the last one here is to go from doing proposals and really long sales cycles to getting rid of the proposal and doing shorter cycles. Greg Hickman's on the show today. If you guys want to check him out, he runs a company called altagency.com. Go there and check him out. You can follow him on social media. It's GJ Hickman. Greg, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, Greg.
Now, Jonah, I sound a little hot in my ear hole here. Am I? Do I need to dial this down? Am I peaking you guys?
No, I lowered you down on my end.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm just hearing it hot on my side. I mean, 18 was my peak, but I don't. Okay, whatever. So, Greg, I'm really excited to talk to you because of one person in particular. My friend. Oh, shoot. I messed up the animation. I feel like I have to do that again, guys. Okay. Greg, I'm really excited to talk to you. My friend, Joanna Galvo, told me you're the guy to talk to. You're really smart, and you just got to have him on the show. So without further fuss, you're here, and now we're talking to you, and we want to learn about how you're helping others do this thing that you're talking about. I believe you have a presentation or a deck or something. Do you want to say something before you get into that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously an honor to be here. I've been following you guys for a while, and I think we believe a lot of the same things. I've been binge watching most of your content, and I think your audience will find value in what we're going to talk about, because I was in the same shoes as a lot of them and was able to kind of transform my business. So really want to take you on that journey and show you how I was able to do it, and now how we've taken over 200 agencies through the exact same process to, again, make more money, work less, not have to work nights and weekends, and not really be a slave to the business, but have a business that serves you.
Beautiful. Now, you sent over a little preview deck, and just by scanning that deck, I was like, this is going to be exciting. So I'm ready to get into this. And I see you have some tools up on the screen here too.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm gonna be drawing. I like having conversations, and one of my mentors, Simon Bowen, out of Australia, he always talks about whether you're in a sales conversation or when you're training and teaching, and you do this a lot, so you probably get it. But the fastest way to draw something into someone's mind is actually to draw it down on paper. So I like to kind of visually talk through the concepts that we're dealing with by drawing. So hopefully I can cement these things into the viewer's mind. So if that sounds good,
I love this.
Let's just jump.
It sounds right in. What program are you using right now?
So this is an iPad and Notability.
Oh yeah, all right.
And then what I do. Yeah, and then what I do is I use something like Keynote or Google Slides to kind of create different shapes and frameworks to draw on. And so I just import a PDF and start drawing.
Awesome.
Ready to rock?
I'm ready.
Cool. So I found myself in a situation where and really a lot of, I think, agency owners, and when I say agency owner, if you don't resonate with that term, you might resonate with freelancer or service provider, maybe you're a consultant, but the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where a lot of our work is custom. Our solutions are custom. A client comes to us, we assess what they need, we play the doctor, we prescribe, and we share a proposal, and we take them into our fulfillment process. We do that with the next client, and usually there's differences in what they need, thus our solution is changing. And what ends up happening when every time we serve a new client and it's custom, a lot of things end up being done manually, and how we prospect is manual. So, if this is you probably rely on a lot of referrals or word of mouth marketing, which I think your audience probably knows by now that sometimes that is not the most consistent and predictable way to generate clients and generate new opportunities, but it creates a lot of unnecessary energy that you have to expend in order to go get clients. And you're in this position where you get a client, sales and marketing stop because you're in fulfillment, and then the project completes and you go back into sales and marketing. And I find that when I talk to agency owners and freelancers that are kind of struggling with this, where every single project is like starting from scratch, they think that the problem is often, well, I just need more leads, because when I talk to people, I'm closing, 70, 80%. But they're sitting there and they're focusing on things like Facebook ads and trying to drive traffic, but they don't see any results. And often that's because with the solution being unique every single time, it's really difficult to create a message that speaks to someone about what it is you actually can do. And you're trying to please everybody. And if you've ever tried to run ads with a very generic message, it's the fastest way to burn a lot of money. And when you start doing these things and you kind of keep them on a repetitive cycle, you usually end up in this situation where I found myself, where it was feast or famine. Revenue goes up, I have a good month, I'm exhausted, gotta go find more clients. And so what we started looking at was, how do we flip the script on this? And what we started doing was, well, instead of doing everything custom, how do we just sell a solution? And when I say sell a solution, I'm thinking about, we've identified a predefined problem, and we have a predefined solution with predefined deliverables, with a predefined scope of work, predefined turnaround time, with a predefined price, because we've already assessed what the value is to the person that we actually serve. I know you talk a lot about value-based pricing, and there's abilities, obviously, in a lot of your videos, you talk about assessing the client's problem and how valuable it is to them. Well, if we hone in on solving the same problem over and over and over again for a specific type of person, we can pretty much dial it into a pretty close to fixed price. And when we do that, we finally have the ability to install systems in our business. And I mean systems around how we sell, so that every time we get on the phone with a prospect, the same process happens, the same cycle happens. Our follow-up is the same process. We're using the same sorts of emails. Obviously, they're customized to situations, but like the whole sales situation is documented in a way where you could have a sales rep come in, you hand them the playbook, and they're able to sit down and actually start being relatively effective pretty quickly. On the flip side, we want to have onboarding that is getting our clients into momentum. I don't know about you guys, but in your agency days, because you guys still don't operate your agency anymore, right?
Not technically. I mean, I guess it's still in existence, but we don't take on any clients. So we're a unique agency, and then we don't have any clients on purpose.
The best agency. And so typically what ends up happening is, when you get a client, often there's like a kickoff call, and oftentimes the new client who's super pumped to work with you shows up. They're not ready for that call at all. That call turns into you telling them what you need from them in order to do your job successfully. Sometimes that turns into 2 or 3 kickoff calls just to get what you actually need to start doing the thing that you do so well. And that's wasted opportunity. That's wasted time, which costs money. And I see a lot of scope creep, and the profitability of projects get lost just in that gap between when they gave you the money or the first payment to that first conversation and to when meaningful work actually starts. And so what I found is that we as agency owners, service providers, we spend most of our time in sales and fulfillment. And that means that's where we need to start installing systems and harnessing technology to get our time back and be more efficient. Yes, it's important to automate lead generation and do all of those fancy things too. But sequentially, if we're spending most of our time in those two areas, that's where we need to systemize. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But all of that ultimately falls on the notion of our model. And a lot of times with a capacity issue, you are serving clients in a one-to-one fashion, and you're interacting with, just that one client on their specific project. Maybe they're in a project management tool, et cetera. But I wanted to move to a situation where we were able to go one-to-many, taking multiple clients through the exact same process at the exact same time. And we found that when we were able to do that, we were able to actually serve more clients and work a whole lot less. And this is where that promise came in, because I found myself on family vacations where we would be at the beach and I'd be out on the sand playing with my family, and I'd be like, all right, guys, I got to run back to the rental property. I got to take a call. And, it was a workcation. It wasn't really a vacation. So you had to bring your laptop everywhere you went. And needless to say, my wife wasn't super stoked about that. And most of my family was not happy with me basically working the entire vacation. So I want to kind of take you through how we actually can start selling solutions so that we can find ourselves in a situation where we can work one-to-many. And it always comes back to capacity. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with service providers where they say, Greg, we have 3 or 4 of our ideal client like right in our pipeline, and they're ready to work with us. We just have no bandwidth. Like, we can't take them on. Maybe that's because they don't have the bodies, they don't have the capacity, but a lot of times it's also just because of how busy they are and how manual things are. They really just don't have the confidence that they can actually deliver on the result that's promised because of those issues. And so what ends up happening is we have this capacity progression. And at the bottom, we're really in this place where it's not even possible. And I apologize for my sloppy handwriting. I'm trying to draw quickly so we can keep moving. But it's not even possible that you can take on a new client. Then you might move up to a situation where you kind of have like the one in, one out. All right, well, when this client's getting done, I can schedule you to get started on this date. And you're booking deals that are starting like a month and a half, 2 months, maybe even further out. Or you find yourself in a situation that I went into where I was like, I want to make more money. I don't really have the capacity. So I'm just going to like work into the nights. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to work in the weekends. And again, that didn't really create the best or healthy family life. And so I was working overtime. But then we started progressing up to the point where we have a flow. We can constantly be bringing in a handful of new clients each and every month where we felt confident that we can deliver those results, and we had the bandwidth to obviously assure those results without necessarily going crazy. And then the long term was being on demand. Like, I can flip a lever, turn on paid traffic, and we can start like controlling lead flow and sales opportunity volume into the actual business. And what I find is, while you see 5 different stages right here, if you're in any one of these 3, you're kind of going to be in that feast or famine mode at some point. And so we really need to start moving you guys into a situation where we can at least be constantly enrolling new clients each and every month. Obviously, you guys are able to do that with your courses. You guys are sleeping. At one of your more recent videos, you talked about this, like you guys are, it's passive income. You're at home sleeping and people are buying courses. You're all over the world. And as you start playing with ads, which I see you guys target me all over the place, like people can be buying at all times. The future is following me everywhere I go. And you probably can spend more money and have more clients come in. And because of how your fulfillment works, whether it's your boot camp or pro group, like the fulfillment is so systemized that if you got 100 new clients tomorrow, you wouldn't break. But a lot of service providers where everything's manual and custom, you get 5, 10 new clients tomorrow, you are going to be in a difficult spot. So all of this changed from, I'm sure you do.
Right now, that are on both ends of the spectrum where they have no work, they've laid everybody off or furloughed them. And then on the other side of the end of the spectrum, which is a small percentage, they have more work than they can deal with, and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to talk about labor here in a minute. But I want to kind of share like the catalyst moment for me. I was at a conference at the time. I'm pretty sure it was the conference that was hosted by Lead Pages when Lead Pages just came out, the landing page software. And Clay Collins, the founder and at the time CEO of Lead Pages, got on stage and said, "Hey guys, the fastest way for any business to get to 7 figures is to focus on the 5 ones." Other people have kind of talked about this concept in the past, but when he said this, I was like, oh my God, my business model is broken. We need to make changes. And the changes coming out of what I'm about to share is what kind of really began the transformation of our business. And he said, if you focus on the 5 ones, which is one avatar, serving them one solution, focused on one conversion method, using one traffic source, and you do those 4 things for 1 year, you will accelerate your growth faster than you've ever imagined. And so I sat there in the audience and I was like, okay, well, at the time, my agency, we were building like sales funnels and marketing automation for course creators. And so the avatar, and actually even more niche, that we're using Infusionsoft. So my avatar was like pretty dialed, or this should be green actually. My avatar was pretty dialed in. So I was like, all right, I checked the box on this, I'm good. But then when we got down here, I immediately hit a roadblock. I was like, well, we migrate people from whatever tool they're using to Infusionsoft. We build webinar funnels. We do product launch formula like Jeff Walker. We do new client onboarding automation. Like we did, if the word Infusionsoft was in the sentence for these people, we would do it. And so we always were reliant on referrals and word of mouth. And someone would say, hey, like we've been using, Greg and his team to do XYZ, like you should chat with them. We'd go figure out what the problem was, and then they'd get a custom solution also. So I realized immediately that I needed to fix what I was offering. And this is where the journey of productization started for me. And you've talked about productization before, at least on some of the content that I've seen you talk about. And how I define productization, if someone's new to this term, is how do you sell and deliver your services like products? Like if you're walking down the aisle of the grocery store and there's like the cereal box, the front of the box would say the promise of what your service delivers. The back would give some details. The one side would give like the nutritional facts, which are like what's included, that stuff. The other side would kind of tell you about why you should trust this person, who it is that's delivering the service, but it's a predefined solution to a predefined problem. And we didn't have that. So what I found was when we started focusing on this, and we did this in February of 2017, I said, all right, we're going to go down to one solution. And then I'm going to focus on one conversion method, which became for us was a webinar funnel into a sales call. So we're going to use a webinar into a sales call to get qualified people. We're only going to use Facebook, and we're going to do that for 1 year. And in 11 months, at the time, my agency was doing like on average $65K a month in revenue, not very profitable, waking up to fire drills. That was February 2017. By December 2017, we hit our first 7-figure month of selling this new solution. And we wound down that $65K of done for you revenue down to $5K. So it was a transition process, basically taking our new revenue and just going like this over the course of the year. But in 11 months, we went from this new thing that we never even heard of in February to hitting our first of many 6-figure months in sales by December. So I know that this thing works. And if you apply it, there's a lot of obstacles because there's a lot of mindset issues of like, and you talk about this a bunch too, of like, am I limited by niching down and only serving less things? It feels limiting, but obviously the ability to say no to everything else and yes to that one thing, like puts all of your energy in one direction. And so for us, and for some of you watching, what ended like where we were right when we were starting to make that transition, we'd get a new client, it'd be a unique set of work. Next client, unique set of work, and so on and so forth. And I said, well, that's not exactly the path that I want to go on. I want to actually work hard once, and every other client that I get after that is going to benefit. So I started thinking about what we were delivering a whole lot different, because what ended up happening with the situation that we were in was, after we delivered the quote unquote engine to our clients, we built them the sales funnel. Over time, they pulled us into all these other tasks, like the administration of these tools that we didn't really want to be a part of. And I don't know if any of your audience deals with this, but sometimes when you don't have the on-demand flow of new opportunities, you're more reluctant and you say yes to expanding your scope of work with a current client just to keep them around because you didn't know where the next one was coming from. Maybe someone feels that.
Right.
So over the course of time, I found that the value of what we were doing over time went down. And this is where we started feeling like a commodity, and where we started to feel like a glorified freelancer, and like, man, like we're basically just on their team. We don't have any of the benefits of being an employee. And we have 4 different bosses that we're reporting to. And I can't even hit my own revenue goals because I'm essentially an employee for 4 different clients. And this is why I think, especially in our time, as you alluded to, Chris, like being able to serve clients in a way that doesn't necessarily tie to labor is really, really important. Because right now, some of your prospects, some of your ideal clients can't afford labor. They're laying off their labor force. And usually that's when you kind of when you realize you've been pulled into that area of, oh man, like they actually just kind of think I'm an employee. Like they just laid off half their staff and me. And you're probably going to get let go before the actual staff in most cases, depending upon how they care about their staff. And it turns into this situation where you actually were a nice to have, not a need to have. And so when we start packaging up our services into a necessity, especially in this time, even if that means we have to adapt our offering a little bit, we need to position ourselves as a need to have. And sometimes that's not going to be the retainers that we would all love to have, because no one wants to think about, oh man, I don't know where we're going to be in 2-3 months from now. Like I can't think about a 12-month contract. Like I need results now. So we need to stop selling the yacht, and we need to possibly be selling a life raft, depending upon who our audience is. And so now I'm blanking on his name, the millionaire consultant. In his book, he talked about, as an agency owner, as a service provider, you're not like, he's like, you're not an agency. He goes, you're an expert. You just chose to package your expertise in the form of laborious services. And you have the option to package them in another way. And the sooner that you can start getting paid for your knowledge and your advisory, the faster you're going to grow. I believe that's something that you're pretty much on board with, right, Chris?
Yes, I am. I'm looking up the author too, by the way.
Yeah, I totally just blanked on his name.
Is it Alan Weiss?
Yes, Alan Weiss.
Okay, I just looked it up on Google.
Thank you, appreciate that. Alan Weiss, and he wrote that $1 Million, a Millionaire Consultant, among a couple other books. But yeah, he basically said that you don't have to package your expertise as labor. That's not the only option for you. And it's funny, as I started diving more and more into your guys' content, I'm like, you guys literally went on this exact same, at least from my viewing of it, you kind of went on the exact same journey, and now you have the boot camps and the courses and all this stuff. So it's been pretty cool. So how do we get there? We focus on 3 things. First, we need to simplify. So what does that mean? We need to simplify what it is we do so that we sell a solution, not time for money. And you did a great video called Generalist versus Specialist, or something along that title. Mm-hmm. And you kind of drew this this little funnel like that, I think, of some sort for the specialist. But really, it's when you focus on serving one person with one solution, you specialize, and all of your energy is focused in one direction. Whereas when you're a generalist and one client comes in, you got to take them this way, this way, this way. You really start to be spread thin, which you don't even have. Again, we go back to that issue of you don't have the time to even go market yourself. It's the classic case of the cobbler's kids have no shoes. You're like, I'm a marketing, branding, designer, helping them grow their business, and I don't have any of that stuff for myself. So the sooner that we can specialize, the faster that all of our efforts go into one direction, and the faster that we actually end up in a position where systems will serve us. And what I mean by that is I find that the best first hire is automation, because we can duplicate all of the repeatable tasks that we would do as a human, from like email follow-up, from sending the welcome letter, having the contract get sent to the new client, all of those sorts of things that would happen anyway that we'd have to do manually. We can start leveraging automation for. And I actually did a video called "Does Make Your Agency More Like Chipotle?" You guys have Chipotle in LA, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys are fans of Chipotle, but we're huge fans here in Colorado. And I started thinking about how an agency can actually mimic Chipotle. Like if you've been in Chipotle, they really have like 5 things. They have bowls, fajitas, now salads, that was not always there, and burritos. But when you go to order each one of those things, like, yes, there's 4 different wrappers that you can get your food in, but you still go through the same process. They still use the same staff, same production line, the same amount of ingredients are behind that wall. They're just grabbing some, not grabbing others. And it's essentially the same meal, just in a different wrapper. The more you can do that with your services, where you can yield 4 different results, 5 different results, but you never have to change the ingredients, you never have to change the staff, and you never have to change the process, you can become really efficient and actually give people different solutions, at least so they feel and will think, when it doesn't impact your process. But if you had to have someone run out the back door of Chipotle, down the street to the butcher, and grab an ingredient that wasn't there to come back, I'd argue that that's an entirely new business, and you're now operating 2 businesses, which, if you're under 7 figures operating 2 businesses, it's kind of difficult to have any one of them hit 2. Is this all making sense?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We had a quick question from the YouTube audience here. So
Let's do it.
in your initial the pyramid diagram, people were wondering what the avatar was again.
So my avatar was basically online course creators that were using Infusionsoft. Influencers, personal brands, mostly selling information products like the courses. Some of them were selling coaching, but mostly information. That was my avatar.
So you're using the word avatar where other people might use the word user profile, customer
buyer persona.
I just haven't heard the avatar term used this way before.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking Last Airbender,
Yeah. Persona. Ideal client. So does that answer the question?
Yep.
Cool. So I really just how can you guys start thinking about your business like Chipotle, where you can yield the same results, but in a different modality, a different wrapper, diversify your delivery methods to help them get the exact same result that you were getting them, but maybe in a different way. That's what I talk about when I say simplify, not just the 5-1 simplify what it is you do, what it is you offer, so you can have a repeatable process to get your client to that solution. The next piece here is systemize. Again, I talked about we want to systemize where we spend most of our time, and kind of this thing I defined as the scale factor. So most of the people watching, if you are in obviously an agency service or you're doing a lot of the work, you're not going to grow a lot more by having tons more leads get flooded into your pipeline, because again, you don't have the capacity to serve them. So your scale factor isn't going to be lead generation. Your scale factor is going to be sales and fulfillment. And so when we come in and we install systems, we want to automate closest to the cash. So what that means is I want to automate my sales process. I want to use a pipeline, whatever tools you're using. HubSpot, ActiveCampaign is one of our favorites. And you set up a visual pipeline where people move through the process. So we're going to set that up. Then we want to set up how we onboard our new clients. And when it comes to, if you hear anyone saying, here's how to automate your business, and that is appealing to you, and you're like, I don't know where to start, this is exactly where you start. And we want to move outward with our efforts to automate, because if you automate out here, which is like advertising, and you're pumping tons of leads into this process that is not working, and there's this big wall here because you can't even close the people because there's no capacity, it's kind of a waste of time, energy, effort, and likely money. Making sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So first we want to automate our sales process. Second, onboarding. You could do those in tandem because this is where the money is made. We've had clients that have focused just on how they do those two things, be able to 2 to 3x their client capacity, because the onboarding process is 1,000 times more efficient. And here they went from maybe speaking to like 5 people a week or 10 people a month, where only one of them was like a prayer that they were going to be a fit, to only getting on the phone with people that they already knew were a good fit and closing a high percentage of them because they pre-qualified them, but they did it all with automation. So again, we're using the tools to filter who we're working or looking for, so that we only talk to the right prospects. So we're going to probably talk to less people, but we're going to talk to more of the right people. Close rate goes up. We get time back in the sales process, which you could allocate over to fulfillment, but we're also installing some things on fulfillment, which I'm going to get into here in just a second. But out here is marketing. Here is kind of if you have like long-term fulfillment, and then retention, resell, and upsell. I'm guessing that you guys have people that buy more than one of your courses.
We sure hope so.
Well, that's obviously a huge opportunity for you guys, is to systemize how when someone buys one thing, how you start recommending them the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing, right? And so, but if you're focused on that before your sales process and how you onboard clients, it's sort of out of sequence. So it's really important, I think, for the people watching, as you go to start implementing this stuff, that we try to solve the right problems in the right order, because if you solve the right problems in the wrong order, you can very quickly, obviously, blow up your business. So we don't want that. So
Greg,
Yep.
before you move on, because it took a little while to figure out what the heck you're drawing here. So, okay, everybody, this is kind of a linear process from left to right. Is a timeline where you have to do a lot of lead generation. And in this example, he's talking about advertising. So when you started out with the cash in the middle at the beginning, I was like, what we're all gathering around the cash pile. So it was like having a hard time processing that. So the arrow goes left to right. So you do lead generation, and you could do that through marketing. You could do that cold calling, warm leads, whatever. And at some point you get into the sales process where you have to close these leads. And you're saying that if you could develop a system where you can filter out, pre-qualify who you're targeting, who winds up reaching out to you, you'll spend a lot less time chasing dead-end leads, which is a time and productivity killer, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you're saying look at the sales process and then work backwards, because that's where it's going to make the difference. That's why you're like, start with the cash, right?
Yep. Yeah. So like this is where they actually give you the money. They make the first payment. That's where the transaction happens. And obviously,
close the deal.
On one side of the deal being closed is the sales process. On the other side is delivery. And so your ideal client is moving this way. But what we're suggesting is you actually start here and you systemize out this way, making your way outward, so that as these things like advertising start to be automated, they're flowing into a pipe, so to speak, that has the bandwidth, and we're not just putting people into a dead end.
Yes. And just for a minute here, because I know we have a lot of different people tuning in of varying skill sets, and some people are just barely trying to scrape by. This is a big dream for them. So what we know in running a business is once you close a deal, you have to begin the onboarding process. You think the work is done, it's just beginning. So you onboard them, you set up systems, file structures, and deadlines, calendars, etc. And then you actually have to do the work. A lot of us consider this creative part, but it generally is categorized under fulfillment production. You have to make the logo, you have to build the website, whatever it is that you're doing. And then the last one on the right of that funnel is the retention. What does that refer and upsell?
Resell.
Resell. I'm sorry. So basically, when you get close to like finishing the gig, you might start asking like, who else in your department might need us? Can you refer us to some of your friends who think that you think could benefit from our services or products? And that's what you're talking about right there.
Absolutely. How do we get our clients to buy something else, spend more with us, increase the frequency in which they buy with us?
Yes. So when you were talking about in the futures case, are we doing the reselling, upselling? We do it at the sales point. Usually when they buy something, that's when something pops up and says, and you can see this happen on Amazon all the time. People who like this, like these other things too. So you bought this kit from us, you might consider this, and we might even sweeten the deal by giving you a 24-hour or instant discount on the second purchase.
Totally. And I'm going to guess that there's probably a plan for you guys to create other trainings. Seeing as the amount of content that you guys create, there's probably some other stuff you can teach us. So, okay, well, right now you sell and prescribe what's best for them in this stage. But now a year passes and you're like, hey, you know what? Everyone that bought those 3 things, they're going to need this new thing that we just created. Let's go hit all of them up through a promotion to get them to buy the new thing that we have.
Yes.
So I don't want this may, obviously it sounds like a little bit overwhelming for some of you. This is why we approach it literally one step at a time. And the best automation does still always start manually. The best automation always starts manually. So even if you're not doing this in an automated way, dialing in the process in which you have a sales conversation, conduct the filtration of who you get on the phone with and who you don't. Like even if that's manual in the first evolution of it, that's okay, because you need to go through that motion. What a lot of people do is they dream up the cool automation that they've never actually done in real life, and they waste a lot of time just like whiteboarding and creating these cool funnels that like would be a dream, but it's not actually how the process works. So if you just look at how do you sell, how do you deliver, that's really the step-by-step process that you need to start with.
Right. So in other words, make a thing a couple of times before you try to figure out how to automate it.
Exactly. So when I think about onboarding people, here's that cash again. This is where the deal is closed, as you said. There's a few things that I think that need to happen before you have the kickoff call, if you are having a kickoff call. And if this is kind of your delivery, your production, as you called it, there's a few things that I want to make sure are happening before I ever start speaking to my client. So the first one, I want to train them. I want to train them how to be a good client. You can create great clients. It is a thing. And so what we want to do is we want to give them training that they need to move through. Typically, I want to cover things like how we work, what to expect, how to make this the most successful engagement possible, how to make, like, here are things to look out for that are going to slow down our turnaround or put us in a position where we're not going to hit, the reason or the result that you came here for. So we're going to teach those clients. You can do that through one video, a couple videos. I almost like to think of this as like, imagine you created your first course on how to train your client to be a good client for the thing that you're about to do over here. Walk them through. Here's about what's about to happen. You don't need to do that on this call. That's actually probably not a good use of your time and or a good use of their time when they could be doing it on their own, especially weaving in anybody else that might be a part of that experience.
That's just like when you're on an airline with Virgin Atlantic. So, stewardess or flight attendants would sit there and tell you the same thing over and over again, airbags, the whole buckle up and take care of people. They create actually sometimes really funny videos or entertaining videos to automate that whole process. So you're training passengers on how to deal with emergencies and how the plane works, where the exits are and what to look out for. So by doing this one video, they may have spent a little bit of money making that one thing, but imagine the amount of time, money, and energy that's saved each and every single time that runs on every single flight across all their airplanes.
Yeah, one of my mentors, his name is Brad Martineau, runs a company called Six Division, and they bring clients to their office for like 2-day implementation workshops. And so in his training, they actually have part of the video is like, hey, when you get to the building, like they have like almost like a vlog, like, look, I'm standing in front of the building. Here it is behind me. You're going to walk in this door. You're going to go up these stairs and you're going to open this door and you're going to meet our lovely office assistant. And she stands up and says hello. And he's like, when you walk over here, there's going to be tons of food laid out for you. Help yourself to anything. I'm going to be over here. We're going to get kicked off at this time. it's like they kind of create a virtual experience so that they know what to expect when this whole thing happens. And if you're not delivering anything that's in person, you can still do this. And I'm not saying, and I want to kind of call this out because this comes up a lot, is I'm not saying to be automated, like that there is no human touch points and no reason for a human. I'm talking about making the process automatic so that the actual human touch points are more meaningful and more intimate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm not trying to remove humans. I'm not trying to be robotic. I'm trying to be more efficient so that those little things don't fall through the cracks. And I basically turn the humans in my business into like super employees because now they only need to focus on a few things versus all the things.
Right. And just for a moment here, I wanted to welcome people who are joining the stream a little bit late. We're talking to Greg Hickman. If you guys want to check him out, he has got a firm called altagency.com, and he's helping us to understand how to productize our business, how to make things repeatable, and to basically get more done in less time. So if you guys want to follow him on social media, it's GJ Hickman. And I also want to read a comment here from Franjo Stojic. Hopefully I said your name correctly. He says, the one thing I value the most from the future is the business education because he didn't get any at his school, and you're getting a really good education right now. I'm not even sure that your professors in school even know anything about this at all.
So after we do the course where we start to let them know what to expect, I want to get them warmed up. And this might be like a checklist. I want them to actually start doing work before we get on the phone. Now, I don't care if their work sucks and we need to do it all over. It just puts them on the same playing field where like we're actually in this position where they're already like, instead of like, I think about like this being on the same page in a book, right? I want us to be on the same page, not just in the same book. I want us to be on the same page. And often I've found that clients were coming onto the call not prepared at all. Like they were off in another world, and that's where the inefficiencies started. So I'm going to give them an assignment. Maybe I'm going to tell them to go gather some things. Hey, these are the things we're going to need. Can you go get these together? Can you go get these people? We need all of their information. Hey, the first thing we're going to be talking about is, XYZ. You might have some sort of, kind of requirements. Say you're doing a branding thing. You might need to know about their buyer persona. Well, maybe you give them a worksheet where they have to complete a buyer persona on their own. Even if you scrap everything that they do, they will be a better client and more prepared when they come here. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So just doing this alone,
yes,
this call will be more efficient, making this process flow a whole lot smoother. We had a client, Ailsa. She has a web design firm. They do websites, and they added on not too long ago, like conversion funnels. So like, hey, when your website captures a lead, we're going to help that lead become someone that becomes a customer for you. They went through this process, and they found that just by doing this, walking their client through what's going to happen, getting them in momentum, they took a 3-week turnaround and turned it into a 3-day turnaround. So their whole fulfillment process went from 3 weeks down to 3 days because of how much time they got back just from what the client was doing in this process. So guess what that means?
You wrote 3 days so efficiently, it looks like 2 days. So it's even better.
yeah, exactly.
I'm looking at it like, I don't see 3, I see 2.
I have to say that in watching all of your videos, I was like, I hope he doesn't mention my handwriting, because your handwriting is just like it's like minuscule and so perfect. 3 days.
Beautiful. Okay.
You can even zoom in on the 3 days. Zoom in on the 3 days.
I appreciate it. My eyes are not that good anymore. So
thank you. So you can really start to streamline how you deliver stuff. So that's the systemized piece. Now, the last piece is really the expansion through other offerings. And we can even call it diversify delivery. This is that Chipotle example. How do we deliver the exact same experience in a different way with a different wrapper? So oftentimes, and I may disagree with some of the things that you say, but if this might be actually the only one.
I feel something coming up. I feel something's coming up right now.
I don't know if you actually, I haven't quite nailed if you truly say exactly this, but a lot of people say, hey, like sell them the audit first, which is like, hey, we're going to audit your business. We're going to help you know exactly what you need. And we're going to basically give the prescription, but we're going to get paid for this audit.
Right.
So I think that's a great first step. And obviously one that's going to help you. If you didn't do that in the first place, that is a good step in the right direction. But we want to start getting to this one-to-many. What often happens still is what Alan Weiss talks about is just like you're now still packaging labor. So you still might do that audit. But if you refer back to this example up here, like they still might need a lot of different things based on that audit.
Yes.
And so you could get paid, but the fulfillment might be like, oh, well, now we're doing SEO, we're doing a logo. Now we got to do social media marketing. And these are all like disconnected oftentimes, which would mean I didn't connect them. And again, you're still in that situation where if the next client comes through and they have a different audit, well, these might be different things. So I want you guys all to look at what you do right now, because there's something that you do that is probably bespoke, which is you're done for you. I'll bring my marker down a little bit. And this is that one-on-one experience. And this is the thing that right now you're like, man, maybe I can't really take on more clients in this area. It's like, I'm stuck. So how can we start delivering that same result done with you, where it's one-to-many? And we're going to start moving out one layer at a time. Any of you guys drive a Tesla or want to, or know what a Tesla is?
Yes, yes, and yes.
You drive one?
Yes.
Which one?
The Model S.
Ah, jealous. I want the Y that's coming out. So do you ever remember when Elon talked about his master plan?
Yes.
And he talked about how we're going to make the most expensive car, the Roadster. I forget, it was like over I think it was over $180,000, if not more. And people are like, that's crazy. Like such a small percent of the population can afford that. Well, yeah, that's right. But he wanted to get as many of the richest, wealthiest people to buy into that, to use that money to iron out all of the kinks in the production process so that he could figure out how to deliver the S and then shortly after that, the X at a more affordable price for comparative to the Roadster.
Right. Cough, cough. Yes.
Yeah. Cough, cough. Start at 70 or 80, whatever. Mm-hmm. So that multiple years later, they were able to roll out the 3. And so they went down the ladder. A lot of online marketing that you hear today is all about ascension, where it's like give away everything for free. Then we're going to try to get them to buy something a little bit. Then after that, we're going to try to get them to spend a little bit more. I found that with services, it's actually a whole lot easier to go the opposite direction, because in most cases, as you constantly teach your folks, you already need to charge more. So this whole thing, this whole area, we need to raise the rates on that. And then we need to start figuring out how to deliver the exact same result with more leverage using the systems that I was talking about, simplifying what it is they get, turn it into predefined deliverables, predefined scope, et cetera, so that we keep moving outward and then eventually have the DIY, which is the, another version of one-to-many, but it's, this is going to be kind of the more affordable option. The difference here between these two is Chipotle. We're still giving them the exact same end result for the most part. It's not a unique solution, or there's not the variable or as many possibilities of what we might deliver over here. We're saying, hey, we help blank do blank. And we can do that in 60 days following our process called XYZ. And it's a 9-step process. Here are those 9 steps. Here's what's going to happen. Hey, team, these are the 9 steps. Here's what I need from you at each step. Here's who's responsible at each step. So when we start to think about how do we systematically remove ourselves as the owner or the technician in the business, if you read eMyth, we're all technicians. And now we're building technical businesses, but we don't need to continue to be the technician. So you might be the designer, but at some point you might have a team of designers, and you're going to have to be, maybe if you want, be CEO and or hire someone to be a CEO. Doesn't always have to be you becoming the CEO. And you're going to now start moving them down this path of delivering a specific result that is still the same as really what you were delivering before.
Okay, I have questions. Can we
Yes.
zoom in on that target symbol, the avocado, so to speak, with the pit still in there?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe with my vision here, the bespoke version is kind of pretty much almost 99% of the people listening and watching this right now,
Yes.
which is you do a lot of customized services and each client is different. Everything you do is different. The process, everything is different.
Yep.
That's called done for you, DFY. One layer out, is that done with you?
Yep.
Okay, so done with you means you work together with the client, you both collaborate in the process. And on the very outer rung there, it's the do it yourself. Like I gave you some things and you do the rest yourself. It's the Home Depot model, right? You can do it, we can help, but you do most of it.
Yeah, and like your courses, like a lot of the courses, I'm assuming that when I buy the
lettering course,
the lettering course, that I'm not getting you for 90 minutes to help me with my lettering.
You're not.
In the pro group, you know, there's coaching calls and there's things like that, but that's another level up, right? So I would put this as the courses, the information.
Mm-hmm.
So what I see over here is, I'll kind of clean this up a little bit, and I'll use a different color.
The drawings are starting to come apart here, Greg.
I know.
You gotta pull it together, Ben.
I'm super embarrassed. Okay, guys, leave me alone.
The internet, let's harass Greg. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. So somehow the avocado will become a meme from one of you amazing designers, and I'm really mad that I just said that and let that come out of my mouth.
There it goes.
I'm sure it'll happen. So on the DIY layer, we have the courses.
Mm-hmm.
On the done with you layer, we have things like training. I bet a lot of companies would pay Chris to come into their office for 2 days and teach them something that he already has the know-how about. They might not get a specific deliverable from a task, but he's training them on maybe a methodology or how their design team can be better. Yep. So there's things that you know how to do that you can help your client's internal team know how to do better and let them be the labor and you be the advisory and the guidance. Most of you have that capability. You actually did a really phenomenal interview with, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, Ron Segal?
Yeah, Ron Segal, sure.
Yeah, and you talked about how he could start working on his courses, kind of this exact process. I actually just went and checked out his stuff, and he's got a whole online course. He's got webinars, and he's got all the things. He seems to have blown up since that conversation. So seems like that 1 hour coaching call is well worth it, guys.
I should have charged him more. That's totally. What you're saying, Greg. Rates are going up today.
100%. Sorry, guys. So this could be training. This could be a workshop. We had a client, Robin. She works with authors that are going the traditional publishing route, and she helps them kind of craft their outline. She semi-ghost writes the book, but she's very involved in the process, and she's super well connected to the publishers. So not focused on she had one of the more recent astronauts write a book, and a doctor write a book. So these people, they have to be traditional published. They're not going the self-published route. And it's very hands-on, very one-on-one. And so what she realized was she can throw 10 people in a room for 2 days and take them through her framework on how to outline the book, how to reach out to publishers. Hey, here are my templates on what to say, who to reach out to, who the contacts are. Here's my Rolodex. Each of those people paid her $5,000 to be in that room, and she hosts that once a quarter, and she could easily fit more in that room. That's just where she started. And so she throws 5 to 10 people in a room for 2 days, paying her $5,000, and she just takes them through a curriculum that, guess what? In month 1, when she teaches it, it's mostly the same as month 2, but maybe some little tweaks because she got better and then better and then better. So you could show up almost on demand and teach that 2-day workshop and just collect the payment and have multiple people get the experience in the same room. So that's workshop. Mm-hmm. This is where I see group coaching and group consulting. I don't know if your world, like mine, collides with this high ticket consulting program term that goes around. Do you guys hear that?
I hear the term. I'm aware of what you're talking about.
So an 8-week, 12-week experience where we're going to send you through some training, give you some coaching, and maybe there's even some implementation woven into that experience. But hey, you're going to go write the copy. I'm just going to tell you what copy to write and give you examples. You're going to go build out the funnel. I'm going to give it to you, those 75% already built. I just need you to like put the copy in it and like connect a few things. And I'm going to show you how to do that through a training. If you get stuck, join me on this call, right? And so this is kind of where we start to see the done with you. And everyone on this call is already familiar with done for you, so I don't need to go into that.
Yep, they're in the pit.
So really the growth plan, if you didn't realize, is just to move outward. Most of you guys are already here. If you looking at the map of where you're at inside the shopping center, and we want to start figuring out what is the first iteration of the done with you plan that we can be delivering. And now there's 3 ingredients that I just alluded to that this is kind of where I'll start wrapping up, is think about how you can bring together these 3 ingredients to move your client to the end result that you currently deliver. So the first one is the training. This is, if you find yourself saying the same thing over and over to every new client, record that. Create assets that walk them through those processes. If you always need the same 5 things, or hey, I need your login credentials to these things, create a form, have an email that goes out upon purchase, and have them submit that into the form. Like, how do we show them how to do some of those things that we find ourselves saying over and over and over again? Get them involved in the process. Version 1 is what we talked about earlier, is just train them how to be a good client. Here's what to expect. Here's how to get started. This is what I need from you before the call. The next is, and again, the training, key piece here, the training needs to be taking people on some sort of sequential journey. Like, there is a clear end destination. When it's a good training is linear. The second training becomes modular. You need to start bringing in people for the live prescription, which if you're only charging $97, it's not going to be very profitable for you to hop on and prescribe every new client 60-minute call and then give them the appropriate training. So we want to make this journey very specific, end-to-end, clear, deliverable, and we start packaging slowly the training to help them get there. Guess what? They're going to have questions. They're going to want some help. So that's where you can offer your coaching, your consulting, whatever you want to call it, mentorship, advisory. You guys do it every single week in the pro group. There's a weekly call, and you guys all can ask and tap into the wealth of knowledge from the brains that are on this call right now. And they ask you specific questions. Hey, like, all right, so you watch that training. Let's talk about how that applies to you right now, or because of your situation, here's the subtle tweak. This is where some of the initial customization starts to come in. And in the beginning, you probably will have to do some done for you, execution, implementation, whatever you want to call it, some production. So for us, I'll kind of give you an example of us, and then we can kind of take any other questions. But this is the path that you go on, and it's sequential. The first version is going to be a little bit more manual than the second version, and then slow tweaks. We don't need to map this out for 7 months, never sell it. I want you to sell it to a small group of people, take them through it at a reasonable fee, work it out as like an alpha or as a beta program, and iron out those kinks together with them. And you'll 100%, they will tell you exactly what they need. And the next iteration of version 2, they'll show you exactly what they need. And you'll be like, oh man, I thought they would have known how to do XYZ. I'm going to have to go create another training that shows them that, or create a resource that makes them get through this piece faster or overcome that obstacle. Depending upon what each of you do, and this is where a consultation usually is important, is there's a lot of courses out there that are like, hey, like just slam this all into a 6-week course, right? Like, here's how to launch a 6-week course. And like, I see a lot of agency owners and service providers come to us and say, well, like the second I had a question about how that worked for my unique situation, their model didn't work for me anymore. And so the ratio of this pie might look different for you as it might for somebody else. And over time, in iterations of this, you'll see the pie shift, right? Because as you get new problems that you're experiencing on this journey down here, and you create a new training, that might bring you less questions to your coaching call. You're like, man, I'm answering the same question over and over and over again. I should probably make a video answering it. And if somebody else asks that question, I'll just send them a link to the video first. And so you'll slowly start to see this pie shrink. And ultimately, this pie can start shrinking over time too. Now, that's up to you, though. I know many clients that like being involved in the process. So you get to choose how involved you want to be. And that's the beauty of it. You have to design it around you. So those are the ingredients. So start thinking about what is that transformation that you're helping your client on, and how can you start combining these ingredients under one price to get them to that end result. And you'll see the capacity increase.
Okay, so I have some questions here. you killed
questions?
The whole slide. We're done. Yes, I have some questions. Okay, yeah. I think maybe one of the most common avatars or user personas or buyer personas that are going to be watching this channel is someone who makes a logo. So
I was prepared. I was prepared.
Yeah,
for this question.
You have to be ready for that. So I make logos, man. Like, how do I systematize any of this? I get the training part. I get the intake form. Like, I need to know your name. It's registered, blah, 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 whatever it is that you need, right? Yep. And now I'm like, how do I do that?
Yeah. Right? It's a great question. And this kind of goes into a couple topics. One, have you ever read, or if anyone's listening and you haven't read Built to Sell?
I've not read it.
You haven't read Built to Sell?
I've not read it.
All right. Well, that's your homework.
I'm building to die with it.
Built to Sell is a book about a creative agency, and the guy is tired, burnt out, wants to sell his business. He's seeking his mentor, getting information from his mentor. And like, should I sell this thing? Should I get out now? What do I do? And over the journey of the book, not to just give the whole thing away, if you'll still get value from it, believe me, they take their full service creative agency and they whittle it down only to designing logos. They only design logos now. And so, like you said, you'll be able to use some training and stuff like that, where you're going to find the efficiencies is the systemization of your internal process. So it might not, this is the example of where it still might be for you, you're obviously still doing the logo, but think about all of the things that happen to get to that, the different iterations. How do we start creating a repeatable process, even visually? And on the, in the book, he talks about how they had a visual blueprint of hey, when you pay for us to come do a logo, these are the 4 stages. Here's exactly what's happening in these 4 stages. And then he was able to go and be like, okay, well, if these are the things that happen in each of these stages, I need someone with these skill sets for the first phase. So do I have that on my team right now? No. That's where I'm stuck. So I'm going to go find someone to help remove me from that phase, because I'm the bottleneck in phase 1. So how do I actually do that? Okay, well, I need to actually document what I even do in that phase in the first place so that I can give that document to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So it's going to more likely be in that situation where it's something so custom like a logo. It's going to be, how do you turn the production and creation of that logo into as much of a conveyor belt experience internally, that you guys can churn out more logos with less energy and effort, and possibly with less team, because you have the right people in the right seats, not trying to say, oh man, I promise this, I got to go find this high-end expensive consultant that's the expert over here just to fulfill on that one piece, which a lot of people end up doing in the creative world, which eat into margins. So for some of you where you're going to still be involved in, it's still going to be bespoke where you're designing the logo, but how do you think about internally systemizing the process so that your team knows what to do and you can still remove yourself with either people and or process? Now, go ahead.
I know how to do it. I just figured it out with you. This is amazing. I just want to say something, okay? So Studio Zotis has said, I feel like Chris might be learning something here too. And they're kind of giddy with that. Look, this is not false humility. I only want to invite guests that I can learn something from. What is the point of inviting a guest to say, Greg, I know it all. What's the point? What is the point? Right. Okay, so you're talking about this. I'm just sitting there God, how do you do this? And as you're explaining this, What you guys could do is you can ask your clients to pick from one of 50, or actually pick 3 of 50 words that are already pre-selected about the most common words that people like to use to describe their brand. It could be energetic, it could be vivid, it could be organic, whatever the 3 words are. And based on that, you have, say, a set of stylescapes, which is like a very distinctive visual mood board of all the different styles that you can think of. And over time, you could build this up. You wouldn't want to do this on the jump because it's a lot of work. And you say, well, based on the 3 words you chose, the highest ranked ones are these 2. Of these 2, which feels most like in alignment with the brand or logo you'd like to have? And you've created, basically, you just taken out a lot of the guesswork. You've eliminated everything. And now it's like you're dialed in. And you could totally do that.
100%. Totally.
I will sell you that course after this for $99, guys. We'll talk later.
$299.
Introductory price $99.
Yes.
After the pre-launch period, it's $299 or $199 or whatever.
Yeah.
There we go.
A good example for someone. So I went to a 2-day branding workshop that a friend of mine out of Austin. His company is called Branding for the People. If you guys check out his website, he's a brand strategist. He helps people come up with identities and messaging around their identity. I went into this workshop and I was in a room with other people, and literally there were worksheets just like that. He's like, hey, there's, I forget what he called them. They were like, not persona. There was almost like, we'll call them personas, but like there were 9 of them. And he's like, which of, like, if you can only pick the 3 of these 9, which 3 would you combine together that sort of create like this interesting dichotomy of like, they're sort of opposites, but like it'd be a really cool combination if they were actually together. And everything was templatized. Like we were literally filling in worksheets together. And at the end of it, like I had the whole document to myself that was customized to me. The other person in the room had it customized to him. And it was all branding, messaging, identity work. And I had to pick out like which logos of brands that I like, because guess what? When I went to go hire my logo person and I just gave them this booklet, they're like, dude, this is amazing. I don't have to do, I can just get to work. And so I was able to, like, I have a friend of mine that does logos. So I just gave him that whole playbook, and he had a couple questions outside of that, but like he was like designing logos in no time. And so there's definitely things around the process, like you said. An example for websites, because that's usually, do you guys get a lot of people to do websites?
Yes, that's the second biggest group, I think.
Yeah. So an example that a lot of our clients end up doing, again, when you narrow down, so say you chose chiropractors. I'm not assuming that many of you guys do that, but if you did, after designing 100 chiropractic websites, if say you're like, hey, we noticed that these 3 convert the best.
Yeah.
Put those into a structural template. And now it's just, you know, the colors, the logos, the messaging that you need to get. And it's almost like becomes a, you know, play by numbers. You're like, all right, well, I'm going to need this sort of information or this type of video. Hey, you're across the world. Here's a script. I want you to have someone, I'm going to connect you with someone to film this video. And then you're going to give us that video. We're going to put it in this spot. They don't even need to know all of the that you have 3 templates behind you. They don't need to know that, but you're always churning out like roughly a handful of different layouts, but they all look unique because the content, the colors, all of that stuff is going to look unique, and they're going to get what they want. But like most of your work has already been done. I call it preloaded, done for you. Like, how do you do some of the work so it's like 70, 80% done before you even start, so that the amount of customization and the whole turnaround time is shortened. So anything that is still hands-on, like logo, website, I would do that way. And the last caveat on that is, and I think this is kind of what you taught Ron Segal, is like many of you guys are probably really good at what you do. Maybe that's, you know, typography, logos, websites. I would guess usually one version of this expansion of revenue streams is the notion of train the trainer. I'm sure there's other creatives that want to learn your methodology, your process. I mean, there's this website called the Futur, and you guys, a lot of you come every single week and consume and buy to learn their methodology, their insights. Like, you could be creating something. There's probably people that want to learn how you did it or how you do it. So you could not just have to do the logo for the person who needs the logo. You can teach other people how to do logos the way that you do logos, which that process will almost always be unique to you. And so even if someone else is selling, hey, here's how I do logos, if they connect with you, like a lot of you guys buy because you love this community and you love Chris and the team, like that's the unique differentiator. And so you can sell the same thing, but your way of doing it's always going to be different. So that's a whole nother angle of, well, maybe I could just start teaching people this process that want to learn it. That's a different avatar, but it is an expansion path in the long game.
So Greg, what you're saying sounds like the dream. It really does. And I see there's at least three sections to this dream. The first part is where most of our audience is going to be, which is they're doing highly customized services, very bespoke. And on the far end of it are people like us who we make most of our money through products, not even productized services. They're literally products. You buy, we don't do anything. We could sell 1 billion of them tomorrow and it wouldn't even change the amount of work that we do. What you're talking about is in the middle here is the hybrid model, where as much of it is automated and productized as possible, there's still some service, some execution. So help them get their heads in this. So Sean has a question to this. Okay, Sean Bose is a friend of ours. He's like, how might a motion design studio implement productization in the production stage without sacrificing, and this is really important, creativity and innovation? How do you narrow your process to specialize like this?
Can you give me an example of what the deliverable is?
Yeah, usually for the motion graphics world, it's going to be a QuickTime movie. It's going to be a video that includes live action, graphics, typography, things like that.
Got it. And again, so part of this is it's up to you. Like, if I don't want to automate and systemize things that you already love doing, right? And that are critical to the process, which is why when like it's something that might be like that, we want to systemize and automate around it. And how do I give myself the most time around that creative production process, which would be the things like, well, I'm going to automate my sales process. I'm going to automate lead generation. I'm going to have an onboarding campaign that helps me get everything that I need so that when I start my motion design project, that my fulfillment can be more efficient. So I would really just start there, not necessarily saying that you have to, probably doesn't, maybe it does, doing the exact same thing, Chris, that you said from a logo perspective. Maybe there's things that you could be creating. Hey, like we use these transitions a lot, or these certain effects. I mean, there's whole marketplaces that sell a lot of these things. So theoretically, you could have your own internal library of things that you know that have worked really well that you don't maybe need to use from scratch. Again, it's still going to be very hands-on and custom, but you might be saving time by systemizing the things around it. The business operations around the creative task that you do would be where I would start. Again, I'm not trying to turn you into a robot. And I think, again, the asterisk is some of these are going to be a little bit harder than others. Like the website templates is going to be easier than the motion. And if that's the case, focus around the process of that.
Actually, I'm a motion person myself. So as you were talking, I wrote down some ideas that overlap with what you're talking about. So Sean, there's a lot of things that you can do. Now, I remember when I first started out and I hired freelancers to come in, freelance animators, I was just blown away, not only in terms of like the quality of the work that they were doing, but the volume in which they were able to do it. And I noticed many of the professionals, they brought in a little hard drive with them. I was like, well, what are they doing with that hard drive? Well, they are bringing in textures, things that they can reuse. And you were talking about this, Greg, about libraries. And so they knew that every single time they needed a lens flare, they had a lens flare pack ready to go. Anytime they needed that scratchy film grain, they had 17 files that were like that, or clouds or smoke or fire. So think about the reusable assets that you have. We love this. And maybe creative people are kind of stuck in this group, but you could join the other group, which is we love to like build things up from scratch every single time. It's super wasteful. It's this whole argument between like building a custom home versus a prefab home. It's much more efficient, a lot less costly to do. There's a lot less waste and damage to the environment when you do prefab home. So think about the libraries that you create, the animation presets, the character rigs, the color correction presets, texture packs, anything that you can use over and over again. Like a 3D model library is something that you can use over and over again. So invest a little bit more time in organizing and building up assets. The last thing, and this might make some people like vomit in their mouth, which is if you think about the kinds of stories that you can tell, there's only so many variations to this. So if you were doing like a wedding video as a production, you know that there's only so many different setups that work. right? There's the rehearsal, and then there's the vows, and then there's the cutting the cake and something like that. You could build out an edit that feels really good that are all placeholders, so that when you go with your team to cover the shots, as Greg was talking about, you cover the wedding, you cover the cake cutting, you cover the vows, and then I only need these 3 angles because the other angles just don't work, and we got to make sure these are in the can. Otherwise, you're going to screw the edit. That way, your team is working less, and you're getting more of what you can use, therefore cutting down the time it takes to edit, and you could probably knock out a same-day edit really, really fast.
Totally. And I hate to use the word templatize, but I think one thing that that I learned in this whole process is that the second I started offering kind of the done with you, the hey, it's not fully custom, it doesn't include all of the whiz bang customizations that, you know, your highest level offering comes with. Like, there are people that probably would love to work with you that just can't afford your done for you rates. And so this is where some of those like templatized options come in. It's like you kind of open up a little bit the type of buyer that you could work with, but you're not just going to give them exactly what you give other people. And for a lower budget, they're going to get something different. They're still probably going to love it, but it's going to be within their budget, and you still get to fulfill on them. And this is where you start to see some of that capacity increase is, well, I can't take you on right now because the process is too hands-on, but I have a junior designer who, if you're looking for something that looks like one of these 15 videos, we can make that for you in like 30 days, and it's going to be half the price. And you don't even have to do it because, again, you have the libraries and the things that you know that are going to be important. And so you can actually start to serve a wider group of people. And even as you go into the agency service, this is what I found. And there's a whole nother level of this, of like advisory, right? Like people pay, I believe, pay Chris to come talk to them, just to talk to them, him and his team, or their teams. So like there's this element of, if depending upon who you like, what type of client you work with, they might have resources in-house that will do some of this stuff, and they just want your knowledge, and they haven't been considering you up until this point because they thought that you do it all. And when you come to them and you're like, hey, well, like I'm actually going to enable and empower and weaponize your internal team, it's going to cost less, but you're going to get our decades of experience, which your junior people don't have. Let's be honest, you can't afford a CMO that would be what we would be worth. So let us show them. Let's let them do the work. We'll critique them. And now you're like this mentor-y, because they probably, at some point, it always makes sense to bring certain things in-house. And so depending upon your service, there might be people already in-house that you can say, hey, like we have an option for you now. And now you opened up the type of client you can actually work with. It wasn't just the guy that doesn't have the creative talent. It's the, hey, they have creative talent and they want to make them better. They want to grow them and groom them.
Greg, I have to say this. You've really helped me to open up my thinking, that I think moving forward, I know how to help and better serve our community. And the reason why I say this is because you know that done for you option that's the most expensive, like we do everything for you. That's the world we've lived in for so long that I forgot what some other people who are trying to get a smaller job, the pain that they and the suffering they have to go through. Because our clients, at least in the past when we're taking on clients, paid us the top dollar to do whatever it is that we do. And they would literally say, do it, we own everything, and they never use it again. But they will pay you just to have everything, and it's ridiculous. So when we're talking about our jobs that go between $250,000 to $700,000, at that point, it's like everybody build everything from scratch. So we started to train ourselves or become used to doing very bespoke solutions that we forgot about this middle and the outer tier in the ring. So now I'm just thinking there's going to be a ton of content that we're going to be producing to help you guys. And
love it.
Let's say I'm like, just blown away. And there are many people who are right now who are watching this. They want you to help them. How much does it cost to get involved in your program and to learn from you? What does that look like?
Yeah, we have 3 different offerings. Okay. The first phase is really around developing what that packaging looks like. That starts as low as $1,500.
Okay.
The more that's a little bit more DIY. There's some light support. Our like flagship program currently is $6,800, and we work together over the course of 3 months, and we package up we figure out what that solution is. Usually within 2 to 3 weeks, we have clarity on what version 1 will look like. Then we move into that systemize phase where we start applying that messaging to your sales process and onboarding. Then we go and say, hey, use these tactics to go get those first 3 to 10 clients into your pilot program so that we can start ironing out the kinks. And so usually clients are bringing in somewhere between 3 and 10 clients within 90 days. And they're charging somewhere between 3 and 10K on average for whatever that deliverable is. I know that's a kind of a huge broad stroke, but like we kind of see that being version 1 of execution for a lot of our clients. And that's called the Foundations program. And that's basically like our main offering.
Flagship product. So they can enter for as little as $1,500. You're going to do most of the work yourself, and you're following your own kind of formula here. Can I assume there's a middle option somewhere, but we don't need to talk about it right now? And then there's
that actually, yeah, the 6,800 is actually the middle. It's just where everyone starts.
I see.
So usually what ends up happening, we have a program called Academy. It's a 12-month mentorship program. And the goal of that is, hey, we got clients in, we've gotten the 3 to 10. Oh my God, this thing works. I want to do what you did and scale that revenue beyond how I generate my revenue right now. And we do that over a 12-month period. And we systematically go through, let's systemize lead gen, retention, resell, upsell, kind of looking at those core areas of the business.
Yeah.
Really start helping you slowly go like this over the course of a year.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So you guys are going to go to altagency.com. They can sign up somewhere on the site. I've been on the site. There's a bunch of buttons there for you to sign up. And I believe you have some kind of free resource to share with the group. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, one, you guys, I give a lot of this stuff away for free as well. I'm trying to take a page out of the Future's book here. I have a growing YouTube channel. There's a whole playlist. I think there's 40 videos. If you just search Greg Hickman on YouTube, I think there's going to be a link in the show notes somewhere. Yep. There's a whole like 40 video playlist of me drawing on my iPad, talking through different things that we and our clients have done to start in this process. So if you don't have the budget and you just want to see like, hey, do I really like Greg that much? You can check that out. And then there will be another link in the show notes of like a deeper dive training walking you through this process. But the easiest place is the website.
So if you guys, Jonah, can you drop that in the comments right now? You guys can go check it out. If you guys go to altagency.com/YouTube, it's the shortcut to get to it, I believe. And you can also search for him. I think it's Greg James Hickman is the actual official YouTube channel, right?
The username. If you search Greg Hickman, I'm the first option always that pops up.
There you go. Sometimes you need the middle name to get it in there.
Face.
Okay, so there's a couple of things here. There's a couple of comments here. This is from Shivani Desai. It's say, this is taking me back to the Marty Newmeyer interview, absolute gold. So she's a big fan. And then Sebastian is saying, just had the aha moment. Now, I don't know exactly when that occurred, but I just wanted to share with you an aha moment did happen. This is very good. There's another question coming in here, and somebody's like, they want to push you or challenge you a little bit. Shoot, there's so many comments back here. Where are you? Somebody had asked this question, like when you made that switch, when you talked about hearing the concept of the 5 1s, and you went back and re-engineered your company, what kind of pushback did you get from the creative team? How'd you overcome that?
Of our client's creative team or mine?
No, your creative team, because you went from a bespoke thing like, guys, scrap that. We're going to eliminate a bunch of the solutions. We're going to like really focus in. We're going to radically change our business. How did they take that? Because some agency owners are going to listen to this and say, well, I have a revolt on my hand right now.
Yeah. So I actually wasn't. I think things were so bad for us of like waking up to fire drills. Like the pain was real on this one, guys. Like we were not profitable. We were losing money, and like we were all stressed, and it wasn't fun. Like the fun was taken out of it. And so when I said, "Hey guys, the first version for us was we went from delivering anything to these 3 packages. It was like we're like 80-20. We're always doing these 3 things. We went to those 3, one of which was miserable, but it was an easy sale. And we're like, oh my God, this is so painful. We're going to eliminate that one. So we were down to 2. That was kind of the first version. And so, for example, this webinar funnel, that was like, became like the flagship offering. We'd build it out for $15K. And someone who wanted to do a webinar into selling their course. And so we'd help them with like the messaging, the storyline, the actual technical implementation using Infusionsoft at the time. And it kind of dawned on me when we would do the project, and then we'd wait like 3 months for like certain things that the client would need to get us to finish the project.
Yeah.
And then by the time they got it to us, the entire scope changed. And I was like, wait a minute, why don't I just show them how to do this last piece so that we can officially end the project and move on? And we're just giving that responsibility to them, because it was almost like, hey, we're gonna work on the copy and messaging together. So we kind of gave them frameworks and copy templates, and they wrote it, and then we'd have to install the copy into all of the campaigns.
Right.
And they would take forever on the copy, and then the whole concept changed. And like, I don't want to do a webinar anymore. We had one client that was a year later, and I was like, I don't even remember who you are. Like, this is crazy. So what we did was just say, hey, we're going to show you how to copy and paste the copy from this document that you already did and put into the campaign. Mm-hmm. We'll give you a call. Like, the second that's done, we'll do a 30-minute walkthrough call to like make sure that like you didn't break the thing that we already built for you. But so like we kind of changed the way the project ended so that we didn't have that happen. And that was when I was like, wait a minute, I can do our entire process like this. And so all of the elements that we needed from them, the next evolution was, all right, you're going to give us all of these things, and we don't start any of our work until we have all of it. But when you get it to us, it'll be completely done in no more than 7 business days, guaranteed, or your money back. And so we instead of partially start like, all right, we're going to get started on our piece while they're doing their thing over here, and then it just got back and forth, inefficient. We just said, hey, we don't start until we have these things. And if you need it by this date, we need it by this date. Can you do that? And then they sign an agreement saying that for every day late, it's X days later. And that worked really well for us as kind of the next progression.
I see.
And so like, it was just very iterative. I'm like, okay, like I'm going to push this one more step. Like, instead of us just assembling it, let me do a couple videos. And this was that notion of, we started talking to a lot of people that they had someone in-house that could do some of the technical stuff. And I was like, assessing that in my sales calls. I was like, well, do you have this person? Sweet. Well, for this price, we'll just give you all the stuff, and we'll be here to answer any questions as your person does it. That person can come on our calls and we'll answer that for them. And so we like trained essentially a lot of their internal people in the process while removing ourselves from all of like the hands to keyboard labor that turned into the scope creep. Mm-hmm. And it was just little tiny progressions. And that's why it took us 11 months, because we were also still managing the current clients we had, because we didn't have the ability to just fire everybody like some people just choose to do. I couldn't do that.
Right. Well, you're human.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like in the beginning of all of this, the shop was busted. You're working too hard. You're not making any money. It's not fun. And so you're just looking for an answer, any answer. And so the team was kind of already primed, because this sucks. It sucks to work and not making money, right? And it also sounds to me like there was a gradual transition that each and every time you tried something new, applied the principle, you were rewarded with it, and things got better. So that's great. I want to read a couple more comments and get maybe a couple more quick questions in, if we can go rapid fire. I want to address them because I'm going back into the well here. So the first comment, it's more a comment, and then there's a little bit of question joke here from Ann Wynn. She's saying, I wish my on-demand e-logistics company had Greg as a country manager before I wouldn't be so confused. Am I going into work tomorrow? She questions. That's one of the comments there. So I'm going to share some of that with you. Mark, any questions that you're spotting that need a little attention here?
I saw a lot about the automation, but I think we addressed that.
Yeah, I think so too. What else is going on here? Anything else? There's so many comments there. Okay, you know what? Maybe first, I just want to say, it does sound to me like you've spent a lot of time combing through all our content. Like when people say, I've seen your content, as you're able to cite in specific episodes and what happened before and after and during, it's like, oh my God, you've been through our content. How is it that you came upon our channel? I'm just curious. I
had seen you a long time ago when you did the probably the famous video on like how to charge for a logo. Yeah. And you know, Joanna reconnected me to your content. I was like, oh yeah, like I know that guy, or I know of the guy. I was like, let me just dive back into his stuff. my first gig was like I wish I were as creative as a lot of the people in your community. Like I wasn't the graphic artist and everything. Like I desperately wish I had some of those capabilities. I was creative in a different way. But my first job was at a creative agency that represented Pepsi and Unilever, and I met my best friend who did the logo for me. He's now does the logos for Gary VaynerMedia, and like I just love seeing other people's creativity. And like when I got back into your channel, like almost all of that like resurfaced for me. Like honestly, it was like missing, I feel like, in my life. And so like I've just like been binge watching like all of your stuff because it's so good. And yeah, so it's been kind of a refresh for me and definitely an inspiration for sure. Like there's things that you guys do, even just this call with the 17 different videos and cameras, the weird over the shoulder shot that Chris, that one, that shot that he threw in there a couple times mysteriously, like we could do this for our clients too. And like, you've kind of made me even think bigger about how we can serve our audience at a whole new level and take our business to a new perspective. I don't know if I'm going to go for $1 billion. I'll leave that to you guys, but I might go $1 million. I might go $1 million agency owners.
That's a lot of agency owners.
It is a lot of agency owners, but hey, you got to be big, right? You got to go big.
You have to. Big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yeah.
A couple of more nice comments in there. And by the way, when I looked up your logo, the alt agency logo, I was like, that's a nice logo. Usually they're pretty ugly. I have to say our guests have ugly logos, and I try not to be a snob about it, but this one's nice. So if you judge a company just on its logo alone, this is quality stuff here, guys.
I will take that as a compliment, and I will send that over to my buddy.
Yes. And for those of you guys that are watching and are enjoying this, I'd love to see a meme with Greg with an avocado for his head. And I will share with you a cutout PNG already so you guys can have fun with it and share it. We'll figure out a hashtag later. So the assets will be in the notes below. Read a couple of more positive comments here. Anna Rivera is saying, thank you. Agus is saying, cool. This is so amazing. From Sahil. Studio Zodas is still saying, blown away as well. So a lot of positive comments, affirmations in here. And in case you guys are joining us late, we had mentioned the 5 1s, which is the crazy kind of way to phrase something. So Jasek is like, here's the refresh on this. He's like, the 5 1s, target client, also known as an avatar, provide one solution, one conversion method, one traffic source, and then do this for 1 year. And there it is. Greg, I'm going to have to get into this program. I'm really going to have to after this to kind of see. And I'm intrigued by technology and your whiteboarding skills. Very nice. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's going to be it since I don't see any fresh questions. Greg, thank you very much for coming on the show. I have some notes here. Not some notes, just a little bullet point here. Okay, we're going to wrap up here. So here you guys go. For the books that were mentioned on the show, Jonah, The $1 Million Consulting by Alan Weiss, Built to Sell by John Warlow, and your buddy who turned you on to some really cool ideas, Branding for the People, I believe. For resources, some free resources, we'll put up the notes we'll put those links in the notes below. His name is Greg Hickman. He owns or is the founder of altagency.com. And if you guys want to watch him on YouTube, he's got over 40 videos. Somebody told me one of them is private, Greg. So altagency.com/YouTube, and follow him on social media at GJ Hickman. And there's that cool little logo, guys. That's it for us. Jonah, I'm unprepared. I don't have music ready to go. Give me 2 seconds, Jonah or Mark. Talk about something real quick while I find the music.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, everybody is enjoying this conversation. And Rob from TubeBuddy says hello, and he wants to connect with you.
Hey, Rob. Absolutely, Rob. Let's do it. I use your product. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Hey, Rob.
Yep.
I was trying to get in on that. What's up, Rob?
Oh, Rob. That
Mark,
boy.
Okay.
That's all we got for the most part.
Yeah, that's all we
Guys,
got.
I've been talking for this whole time. You guys can fill in a little bit for me.
Well,
We'll sing for you.
we'll come up with the music.